All right, everyone. Welcome back to the EMT Spot's Blood Pressure Podcast. I'm Samuel Harrison.
And I'm Olivia Harper.
And today, we're going to be tackling a question
Yeah.
that seems to keep popping up. And it has to do with how blood pressure reacts to these extreme temperatures everyone's talking about.
Yeah, it's a great question.
So specifically, saunas and ice bath.
It really deserves a closer look because the effects can be pretty surprising.
So let's just jump right in and crank up the heat.
Oh, wow.
And start with saunas.
Right.
Now, I was reading this study, and get this. While you're actually in the sauna, your blood pressure goes up.
Right. It seems counterintuitive.
Not what I expected at all.
But think of it this way. The heat causes your blood vessels to dilate
Okay.
or widen, allowing more blood to flow through.
Okay.
That increased flow, at least initially, can temporarily boost your blood pressure.
So it's just like a short-term spike.
Exactly. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Once you step out of the sauna and cool down, your blood pressure drops, often even lower than your normal baseline.
So it's like a roller coaster for your blood pressure.
Yes.
Up in the heat, down in the cool.
A very apt analogy.
Okay.
And that dip, that post-sauna drop, is where some of the long-term benefits might come into play.
Okay, now we're talking. Hit me with those potential benefits.
Well, there's this fascinating study that followed a group of Finnish men for over 2 decades.
Wow.
It found that those who took saunas 4 to 7 times a week had a significantly lower risk of developing hypertension, almost 50% lower compared to those who only indulged once a week.
Wow, 50%. That's huge.
Yeah.
But why is frequent sauna use so impactful?
That's a question researchers are still exploring.
Okay.
Some theories suggest that frequent sauna use could be training the blood vessels,
Oh, okay.
improving their elasticity and ability to dilate and constrict effectively.
So it's almost like a workout for your blood vessels.
Exactly.
I like it.
This kind of vascular workout could lead to better overall blood flow and help regulate blood pressure in the long run.
Okay, so it's not just about relaxing in the heat. It's like giving your circulatory system a little bit of a workout.
Exactly.
Okay.
I like that.
And then there's the potential impact on the autonomic nervous system,
Okay.
the system that controls those involuntary functions like heart rate and, you guessed it, blood pressure.
So saunas could be giving our internal control center a tune-up.
Potentially.
Right.
The cycle of heating, cooling, and relaxing that you experience in a sauna might help regulate the autonomic nervous system,
Oh, okay.
leading to better blood pressure control over time.
Okay, I'm starting to see why saunas have become so popular.
Yeah.
But what about the other end of the temperature spectrum? Let's dive into the icy world of ice baths.
All right, brace yourself because ice baths trigger a much more immediate
Oh, boy.
and intense physiological response.
Okay.
It's called cold shock, and it causes your blood vessels to constrict rapidly,
Yeah.
leading to a quick spike in both heart rate and blood pressure. Yeah, I can imagine that initial plunge sounds pretty intense.
Right.
But why would anyone willingly subject themselves to that?
Right.
Is there a method to this icy madness?
Absolutely. The idea is that those constricted blood vessels,
Okay.
while temporarily increasing blood pressure,
Right.
actually redirect blood flow away from your extremities
Okay.
and focus it on your vital organs.
Interesting.
It's like your body is going into survival mode,
Oh, wow.
prioritizing the most important functions.
So it's like a temporary redirection of resources.
Exactly.
But how does that translate to any potential benefits?
Yeah.
Especially regarding blood pressure.
Well, the research on ice baths and long-term blood pressure effects is still in its early stages.
Okay.
However, we know that the reduced blood flow to the extremities
Yeah.
can be beneficial for things like limiting swelling and inflammation after a tough workout.
Okay.
That's why ice baths are a popular recovery tool among athletes.
Right. That makes sense.
Hmm.
So while the direct impact on long-term blood pressure is still unclear, the potential benefits for recovery are pretty compelling.
Exactly.
Okay.
Plus, there's growing interest in other potential benefits of ice baths,
Like what?
like improved mood and alertness,
Uh-huh.
possible calorie burning through brown fat activation,
Interesting.
and even potential boosts to the immune system.
Wow, there's a lot going on there.
But as always, more research is needed to confirm these benefits.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot more to discover about ice baths.
Definitely.
So we've got saunas potentially training our blood vessels and tuning up our nervous system.
Right.
And ice baths providing a powerful, albeit temporary shift in blood flow.
Yeah.
What a contrast.
Yeah,
But before we get too carried away, let's take a step back and address the safety aspect.
absolutely. It's crucial to remember that both saunas and ice baths,
Yeah.
while potentially beneficial,
Uh-huh.
can also pose risks,
Of course.
especially if you have any underlying health conditions.
Right.
That's why consulting with your doctor before trying either practice is crucial.
That's good advice.
They can help you assess the risks and benefits
Yeah.
based on your individual health history.
Great point. It's always better to err on the side of caution
Mm.
and get personalized advice.
Exactly.
All right, well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
We have.
We've explored the contrasting effects of saunas and ice baths on blood pressure,
Yes.
delved into some potential long-term benefits,
Right.
and emphasized the importance of safety and individual considerations.
Definitely.
But there's still much more to unpack, so stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve into some fascinating details from the research and answer some of your burning questions.
I wait.
All right, we'll see you there.
See you then. Welcome back to the EMT-Spot's Blood Pressure Podcast.
All right, let's jump right back in.
We're ready to dive even deeper.
In part 1, we touched on the potential long-term benefits of saunas,
Yes.
especially that study showing a reduced risk of hypertension for those frequent sauna goers.
Great.
What are some of the specific mechanisms at play there?
Yeah. One theory revolves around the way saunas seem to improve the function of those tiny but mighty cells that line our blood vessels, the endothelium.
The endothelium. Remind me what that is again.
It's basically the inner lining of our blood vessels.
Okay.
And it plays a crucial role in regulating blood pressure.
Okay, got it.
So how do saunas affect the endothelium?
Yeah.
Well, the heat from the sauna might be acting as a kind of training stimulus for the endothelium,
Okay.
improving its elasticity and ability to dilate and constrict effectively.
Okay.
This could lead to better blood flow overall.
So it's like a workout for your blood vessels.
Exactly.
Okay. I like that analogy.
And another fascinating detail from the research is the effect saunas have on heart rate.
Okay.
It turns out that your heart rate can actually increase to a level similar to moderate exercise while you're in a sauna.
Really? So you're getting a cardiovascular workout without even moving?
In a sense, yes. Although it's important to remember that saunas don't involve the active use of skeletal muscles like traditional exercise does.
Right. You're not exactly pumping iron in the sauna.
But the point is, the cardiovascular benefits of saunas seem to overlap with those of exercise.
Yeah.
At least to some extent.
That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears back to ice baths.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that the research on their long-term effects on blood pressure is still emerging.
Right.
But I'm curious about those other potential benefits we touched on,
Uh-huh.
like mood enhancement and immune system boost.
Yes.
What's the latest on that front?
There's growing interest in a technique called the Wim Hof method,
Okay.
which incorporates cold exposure,
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
including ice baths, as a key component.
It's that method developed by the Iceman, right?
That's right, Wim Hof,
Yeah.
a Dutch extreme athlete known for his incredible tolerance to cold.
Wow.
His method combines specific breathing exercises, cold exposure, and meditation.
And it claims some pretty impressive benefits like
Right.
reduced stress, improved cardiovascular function,
Oh.
even a boosted immune system.
Exactly. Now, while anecdotal reports of positive effects from the Wim Hof method abound,
Okay.
the scientific evidence is still somewhat limited.
So we need more research to confirm those claims.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
But even if the jury's still out on some of the more extraordinary claims, the research on cold water immersion in general does suggest some intriguing benefits.
Like we discussed earlier,
Yes.
the effects on inflammation,
Right.
muscle soreness,
Uh-huh.
and mood.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And there's even some early research suggesting that regular cold exposure could potentially help improve insulin sensitivity.
Which could be huge for people with diabetes
Yes.
or those at risk of developing it.
Absolutely. It's definitely an area worth exploring further.
Yeah.
But as with any health practice, it's crucial to proceed with caution
Of course.
and consult with your doctor, especially if you have any underlying health conditions.
Okay, so we've got these potential benefits, but what about the flip side? Are there any specific risks associated with saunas and ice baths that we should be aware of?
Absolutely. With saunas, the main concern is overheating,
Yeah.
especially if you stay in too long or don't drink enough fluids.
Makes sense. It's a giant dry heat chamber.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's crucial to listen to your body,
Uh-huh.
stay hydrated, and avoid pushing yourself beyond your limits.
Okay.
And of course, certain individuals, like those with heart conditions or pregnant women, should consult their doctor
Right.
before using a sauna.
Good point.
Now, what about ice baths? What are the potential risks there?
Yeah.
With ice baths, the initial cold shock response can be quite intense, as we discussed.
Yeah.
It can put a strain on your heart,
Okay.
so it's definitely not recommended for anyone with heart problems.
So for people with pre-existing heart conditions, ice baths are a no-go.
Generally, yes.
Okay.
It's best to err on the side of caution.
Of course.
And even for those who are generally healthy,
Uh-huh.
it's important to ease into ice baths gradually, starting with shorter exposures and colder showers
Okay.
to allow your body to acclimate.
And as always, listening to your body and stopping if anything feels off.
Exactly. Safety first.
All right, so we've covered potential benefits,
Yeah.
potential risks, and the importance of consulting with your doctor.
Right.
But what about the practicalities? If someone's listening to this and thinking, okay, I want to try this out,
Yeah.
what advice would you give them?
Well, besides getting the green light from their doctor, I'd say start slow
Okay.
and gradually increase your exposure time
Okay.
as your body adapts.
Okay.
For saunas, begin with shorter sessions, maybe 10 to 15 minutes at a lower temperature.
Okay.
And for ice baths, start with cold showers and work your way up to colder temperatures and longer dips.
So baby steps are key.
Absolutely. And pay close attention to how you're feeling.
Okay.
If you feel lightheaded, dizzy, or overly uncomfortable,
Yeah.
step out and take a break.
And stay hydrated.
Yes, staying hydrated is crucial for both saunas and ice baths. Drink plenty of water before, during, and after your sessions.
Okay, that's some solid advice for anyone looking to dip their toes,
Right.
literally or figuratively, into the world of extreme temperatures.
Exactly.
But before we wrap up part 2, I want to touch on a question that I think a lot of people have.
Okay.
Does sweating actually lower blood pressure?
That's a common misconception.
Because we've been talking about heat, and heat makes you sweat, so it seems like a logical connection.
But sweating itself doesn't directly lower blood pressure.
So all that perspiration isn't magically washing away hypertension?
Afraid not.
Okay.
But the process of sweating, particularly in a sauna, might be linked to other physiological changes
Okay.
that can indirectly impact blood pressure,
Okay.
like the blood vessel dilation and autonomic nervous system regulation we talked about earlier.
Okay, so it's not the sweat itself,
Right.
but the underlying processes that are doing the heavy lifting when it comes to blood pressure.
Exactly.
Fascinating. Well, I think we've reached peak deep dive status for part 2.
I think so too.
We've uncovered some intriguing details about the mechanisms behind the potential benefits of saunas and ice baths,
We have.
explored the risks,
Yes.
and offered practical tips for those who want to give them a try.
Exactly.
And we've emphasized the importance of listening to your body, starting slow,
Right.
and above all, consulting with your doctor to make sure these practices are safe for you.
Definitely.
But there's still more to come. Join us for the grand finale, part 3.
Yes.
Where we'll reflect on our key takeaways and consider what all this means for you, our listeners. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into extreme temperatures and their impact on blood pressure here on the TheEMTSpot's Blood Pressure Podcast.
We sweated it out in the sauna, taken the plunge into the icy depths of ice baths. And now it's time to step back and reflect on what we've learned.
You know, going through all this research and discussion,
Yeah.
one thing that really struck me is just how differently our bodies react to heat and cold.
It is fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
Both saunas and ice baths trigger powerful physiological responses, but in completely opposite directions.
Saunas, with that dry heat, seem to gently nudge those blood vessels open,
Right.
getting the blood flowing more freely.
While ice baths, with that sudden cold shock, slam on the brakes, constricting those blood vessels.
Yeah.
And sending the blood rushing to protect those vital organs.
And yet, both practices, despite their contrasting approaches,
Right.
seem to hold potential benefits for our cardiovascular health,
Yeah.
particularly when it comes to blood pressure.
It's a reminder that sometimes a little bit of stress, whether it's heat stress or cold stress, can actually be good for us,
Yeah.
pushing our bodies to adapt and become more resilient.
It's like giving our cardiovascular system a workout
Exactly.
in a very unique way.
So let's recap some of those surprising facts that made us go, I didn't know that.
All right, shoot.
For me, the big revelation was that study linking frequent sauna use,
Okay.
4 to 7 times a week, to a nearly 50% reduction in hypertension risk.
Yeah, that's a game changer. It really highlights the potential of incorporating regular sauna sessions
Yeah,
into a heart-healthy lifestyle.
exactly.
I also found it fascinating that your heart rate can rev up in a sauna to a level similar to moderate exercise,
Right.
even though you're essentially just sitting there.
It just goes to show that even passive activities can have a real impact on our cardiovascular system.
Now, on the ice bath front, I was surprised that the research on their long-term effects on blood pressure is still somewhat limited.
Yeah, it's a relatively new area of study,
Okay.
but there's definitely growing interest,
Yeah.
especially with the rise of techniques like the Wim Hof method,
Right.
which incorporate cold exposure as a key component.
Right, and while the evidence for some of those more extraordinary claims,
Yeah.
like boosting the immune system, is still emerging,
Right.
the potential benefits for things like muscle recovery and mood enhancement are intriguing.
Absolutely. So, now that we've explored the science, been surprised by some unexpected findings,
Yeah.
let's shift our focus to you, our listeners.
All right, so if you're intrigued by the potential benefits of saunas or ice baths and wondering if they might be right for you,
Yeah.
what are the key takeaways?
First and foremost, remember that we're not medical professionals.
Right.
So always consult with your doctor before incorporating any new health practice,
Absolutely.
especially those involving extreme temperatures.
They can help you assess the risks and benefits based on your individual health history
Right.
and make sure it's a safe and appropriate choice for you.
Exactly. And once you've got the green light from your doctor,
Uh-huh.
remember the golden rule. Start slow and listen to your body.
Whether you're easing into the heat of a sauna or taking the plunge into an ice bath,
Right.
gradual acclimation is key.
Start with shorter sessions, pay attention to how you're feeling,
Yep.
and don't hesitate to step out or stop if anything feels off.
And above all, prioritize safety.
Now, one last thought before we wrap up.
Go for it.
As we've seen, both saunas and ice baths offer unique and potentially beneficial ways to challenge our bodies and perhaps even enhance our cardiovascular health.
But ultimately, the best approach is the one that feels right for you,
Right.
your body, and your lifestyle.
So stay curious, keep exploring, and maybe even venture out of your comfort zone a bit.
You never know what you might discover.
Well, folks, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into blood pressure and extreme temperatures.
We've covered a lot of ground,
We have.
from the physiological effects of heat and cold to the potential benefits and risks of saunas and ice baths.
We hope you've enjoyed the journey as much as we have.
Thanks for tuning in to the EMT Spot's Blood Pressure Podcast. I'm Samuel Harrison.
And I'm Olivia Harper.
We encourage you to subscribe, like, comment, and share this episode with anyone who might be interested in learning more about the fascinating world of blood pressure.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay well.